What's going on, guys? Welcome to my level 3 skiller guide for Sulliuscep mushroom trees. Now, in this guide, I'm going to show you guys how to properly navigate throughout the swamp and dodge and weave those pesky tar monsters located within the swamp and try to avoid. Now, I just want to clarify, this is a very dangerous area to be, so if you are a hardcore Ironman or just trying to avoid dying in general, I would not come to this location, especially when you are trying to learn. You are most definitely going to die a couple of times as a level 3 skiller, hands down. And even if you do manage to get the hang of this method, you still occasionally will die. It's really kind of inevitable unless you're really paying close attention. But I promise you, as you're learning, you probably will end up dying at least one time. So let's just keep that in mind, guys. Anyways, let's go ahead and get straight into the guide. Now, these Sully mushroom trees are a very decent training method for woodcutting. However, as a level 3 skiller, the main reason why you'd want to come here is this is the fastest way to obtain unidentified fossils on Fossil Island, which in turn you can turn in for Slayer experience through the Varrock Museum. But you can still expect anywhere from about 60 to 80k XP an hour if you're really paying close attention. It's going to be slower than a normal account, as there are a few extra steps as a level 3 skiller that you will actually have to do throughout here. So that is why our XP rates are a little bit smaller than most accounts. So let's go ahead and go over your gear setup as well as your inventory setup. So for gear, all you're going to need is Graceful. It's highly recommended to have full Graceful. As far as anything else, maybe just a dual ring to teleport out if you want, but you won't need anything else. So let's get into the inventory here. The inventory setup, you will need your best tier of woodcutting axe, as well as a rake, super anti-poison, or antidote, whichever you choose. Any type of food source. I bring cakes and it does the job just fine. And you will need either Guthix Rest or Saradomin Brews. Now, both of these heal your health over 10 HP, which is definitely needed when you are doing this, as something within the swamp does deal 10 HP and it will kill you every single time. So if you increase your health over 10 HP, that avoids from dying, and you can continue the method without actually dying. So it's highly recommended to bring one of those. I just bring the Guthix Rests, as they increase your health higher than the Saradomin Brews do. Whatever you want to bring is fine. And then the last item in the inventory is the snake hoops, which I will be going over in a second on how to obtain those. You will get those at the start of the swamp. So let's go ahead and get on to the actual method. Also, before we get started, it's highly recommended to have the third-party client RuneLite, as this just helps tremendously through navigating through the swamp areas, and it's going to make your life a whole lot easier, and I will show you exactly why here in a second. So if you go ahead and run west from the museum camp on Fossil Island, you will run into snake hoops before you run into the swamp area. As you can see, there is a hoop snake that it's just a snake that goes around in circles. You will need to stun these. You can stun these with your bare hands. It might take a couple of times to do so, but you need to collect these to stun the tar monsters located within the swamp. That way they don't attack you. You definitely need this. You will not be able to do this without it. So for your first time coming through here, if you're starting from the very start, you will need to have at least 12 in your starting inventory. So just go ahead and run around here and collect 12 of these hooped snakes, and once you do so, we can finally go ahead and start. So I'm going to try to slow this clip down a little bit just so I can explain to you guys a little bit better. There's a lot to explain when going through here. So as you can see, I have the RuneLite functions on that allow you to highlight objects. So if you see the tar bubbles here that's highlighted cayenne or blue, whatever you want to call it, that is actually the tar monster that will attack you. So I like to highlight the bubbles because they're initially in bubbles. If I unhighlight it here, you can see there's just a bubble. That's all it is. So if you run within 2 squares of that bubble, a tar monster will spawn and it will attack you. So I like to highlight it because the bubble is very hard to actually see. So if you highlight it, it's a lot easier to see, which is why RuneLite comes in clutch when you are doing this method. So the first thing you want to do is you want to use your hoop snake on the tar monster, and this will stun it, allowing you to run past it without it actually attacking you. But when you are doing this, you have to be very careful, because if you throw your hoop snake and then run too quickly, it will still attack you. You have to wait for the hoop snake to actually stun the tar monster before you run past it. This does take a lot of patience to do, and you probably will end up failing a couple of times, which is why you have your food. But if you do die, no big deal. Just come back and try again until you get the hang of it. Now, there are a total of 5 different tar monsters located all within the swamp right here. So just be careful for all these. Sometimes RuneLite, for whatever reason, unhighlights them, so you got to be very careful. But for your first start, you just chop through all these vines and rake through all these vines until you get all the way to the end here, to this 3 tar monster location right here. You have to stun both of these very quickly, run past them, and then stun the 3rd tar monster like I did just there. And then you want to quickly run past all 3 of them to get to the first step of the Sully mushrooms phase. There are a total of 6 of these mushrooms located throughout the area here. This is the first one, and it is in the same order every single time. So once you do all 6 of them, it will come back to this spot. Now you can see the highlighted tiles I have right here. This is, you do not want to walk in those highlighted tiles, because that spine mushroom will attack you and instantly kill you. It does deal 10 damage every single time. So do not step in front of that one. Not all of these spine mushrooms do attack you. However, that one in particular does attack you. So the first thing you want to do is come to this mushroom tree and unlock the sticky swamp teleportation. That way, in future times that you come here, you can just instantly teleport from this tree, and you don't have to run past all that beginning stuff in the swamp, making it a lot easier. Alright, so you can go ahead and start chopping your first step of the mushroom trees. Now, this has a 1 in 16th chance of depleting, so you can literally be here for 1 mushroom and it will disappear, or you can be here for multiple inventories. It's just random. So as you can see, mine just went away after 3 mushrooms, so you never know. Now, this mud pit right here is actually another teleportation method to get back to this spot, which I'll go over in the future. But you will need at least 9 of these mushrooms that you obtain through chopping these mushroom trees to fill this pit up to utilize the teleport. Now, if you utilize this teleport without filling it up with the 9 mushrooms, you will die. It will deal 40 damage, I believe, and it'll instantly kill you. So if you are going to use that, make sure you have the mushrooms, and I will go over that in the future again. Unfortunately, this inventory, I did not get the 9 mushrooms, which is okay. So to get to the second tree, you're going to go back to the way you came, but this time you are going to head south rather than north. So as you can see, I am stunning the 3 tar monsters once again. Now, this next step is going to be a little bit more difficult. This is where a lot of people die, so do not go any further until I give you further instructions. Okay, so stop right where I am. As you can see, there are 4 highlighted tiles right here. Now, this spine mushroom does hit 10 HP every single time that it hits you. Now, it does attack randomly. It's not always going to attack you, but it will attack you eventually. There's no way to avoid it whatsoever. I've tried every single method. But however, if you do run through it without stopping like I did, it does attack more often than if you were to stop. Now, this is where the Cerebrews and the Guthix Rests come in handy, because if you drink either of these, they increase your HP over 10. Now, the Spine Mushroom hits 10 every single time, so if you have 10 HP, you're dead. So you have to boost your HP above 10 HP with the Guthix Rest or the Cerebrews, and that way when it does attack you, which it will eventually, you can survive it. It will poison you, and that's when you use your anti-poison or your antidote to get rid of the poison. But once you're headed back, it's the same method. You stop before the 4 tiles I have highlighted. If you were to sprint and not stop, it will attack more often than if you were to stop. I did not get attacked this run, fortunately, but like I mentioned, guys, there's no way to avoid it. Believe me, I've tried everything. It's just inevitable. You will get hit by it eventually. So To get to the third tree, you just go back north. You'll have to stun those two tar monsters right there. Don't worry about that spine mushroom we just ran past. Even though that one moves, it does not actually attack you. I will tell you the spine mushrooms that do attack and which ones do not. So, as you can see, that tar monster was close to the vine that I just chopped there. It does attack over the vines, so do not think you can walk up to the vines and you're safe behind it, because it will attack you through obstacles, so just keep that in mind. This highlighted spine mushroom you can ignore that. That one does not attack you. This one to the left of the tree, however, does attack you. So if you click on the tree itself when you're running over here, it will always bring you a safe route and the mushroom cannot attack you. But if you're clicking on the floor tiles, you could accidentally step in front of that mushroom and it will attack you. So just make sure you're clicking on the tree every single time and you will be okay. Moving on to the number 4 mushroom tree. You're just going to head south here and stun the tar monster once again. Now you can collect extra hoop snakes in this area if you need to for whatever reason. But this time we're running north. You want to clear through these vines again with the rake. And just west right here is the 4th Sulliuscep tree. Ignore these highlighted tiles that I have right here. This spine mushroom does not actually attack you, so you do not have to worry about that one whatsoever. Going to the 5th tree, you just move north here. And again, these tar monsters can attack you through these objects. This one in particular. So be careful. You are not safe behind these objects. You want to quickly stun the tar monster as fast as possible. Chop through these vines. And you are back at the start of the swamp area in which you started at. This is where the final 2 trees are located. The 5th tree to the left and the 6th tree to the right. Again, it's in the same order every single time. So you'll come over here and chop the 5th tree. And the spine mushrooms in this area as well are not aggressive, so you do not have to worry about them either. Now you might see the rubber cap mushroom to the north that's highlighted green. This is the teleportation method that you can utilize to go back to the dirt pit that I mentioned. However, again, I cannot stress this enough, guys. Do not jump on this if you do not have the 9 mushrooms in the dirt pit that I mentioned previously. You will die without those 9 mushrooms. So, while you are chopping these final 2 mushroom trees, you want to try and keep at least 9 mushrooms in your inventory at all times. This way, when you do use the rubber cap mushroom to teleport back, you can instantly fill that dirt pit back up immediately after use, because you do have to refill it every single time you use it. So try to keep at least 9 mushrooms in your inventory for these last 2 trees. At this point, you have successfully completed an entire run of the Sulliuscep mushroom trees. However, at this point, you can either bank and get some more food, or put your fossils away that you may have obtained, or whatever you need. Then come back here, and you need to obtain more hoop snakes. Now, this time, you do not need to have 12, as we are teleporting back. You only need to have at least 7 from now on, as long as you are teleporting back. If you're running through the entire swamp like we did at the start, you will need 12 again. But if you're teleporting back, which you should be, you only need to obtain 7 more hoop snakes. So once you have your 7 hoop snakes, you can use the rubber cap mushroom teleportation if you have the 9 mushrooms in the dirt pit, like I mentioned. If you were unfortunate like me and only obtained 3, or if you didn't attain 9 mushrooms, no big deal. You can run north here to the mushroom teleportation trees, and you can teleport to the sticky swamp location that I mentioned about previously. This does take a little bit longer, but if you don't have the 9 mushrooms in it, this is the second fastest way. So we'll just run up here and use the sticky swamp teleportation method, which will bring you to the same exact location, the number 1 starting of the order for the Sully mushroom trees. At this point, you're back at the starting point, and you need to refill this mud pit with the 9 mushrooms that I said you need to bring. However you got here, whether it was through the rubber cap mushroom or the mushroom teleportation trees, just make sure you refill that, as you're not guaranteed to obtain 9 mushrooms from this tree alone. So that's why I always bring 9 with me. At this point, you can just repeat the same process over and over until you get the hang of it, and you eventually get a bunch of fossils as well as a decent amount of experience here. Overall, you get a lot of fossils while doing this. It's insanely fast to the other method, Herbivore, which is available for level 3. So if you're looking to complete that Varrock Museum Diaries, this is definitely by far the best way to do it. However, that is going to be it for this guide, guys. This took quite some time to make, so I really do hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, make sure you guys hit that like button and leave a comment down below as well. Help me grow my channel a little bit, and turn on that notification bell and subscribe if you have not. That way you can get future content that I release. But yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.